Đưa mẹ cầm lại đưa cho.
19, thank you.
Vâng, dạ, lắm.
And we have the 14, 15, and the 16, 17 for 2, and 18, 19, thank you. 20, thank you. 21 and 22, 23, awesome, thank you. On the same page, someone? Okay, very good. Anyone have a 145 true crime tour? Anyone going on another tour? At 145 true crime and true crimers? No? Okay. Right, so this prison's got quite a few stories to tell, and we've divided its history roughly into two separate eras. We have what we call the convict era, which started in 1850 all the way to 1885. So just a very short 35 years. Right, now everything else in this prison's history falls into what we call the modern era. Right, and when we say modern, we're actually going all the way back to 1886, all the way to the time when this prison shut down. Does anyone know when did this prison shut down? Which year? Any ideas, anyone?
97?
Yeah, very close. It was 91. Yes, 1991. Yes, 34 years ago. 34 years ago. All right, now that is very important to know because we still have visitors coming in asking, can we see the prisoners today? And unfortunately, the answer is no. If you want to see some real prisoners, you've got to go half an hour down south to Kwinana. That is where Casuarina prison is today. That is the new maximum security prison here in WA and took over from Fremantle prison 34 years ago. Right? So what was going on here in the 1880s? What was Fremantle prison transformed from a convict prison, taking in only convicts from the UK, to basically, well, taking in everyone else? Well, you see, gold was discovered back in the 1880s, and lots of people came to the state, and lots of people landed up in jail. But not this jail. They landed up in the Perth City Jail. Has anyone been to the WA Museum, the brand new one? Lots of glass. Oh, yeah, you've been to that one. If you go there, you will see a tiny little building right in the middle. It's an old one, and that used to be the old Perth City Jail. Right? So they used to put jails right smack in the middle of the city, over in the eastern states as well. And that jail could only accommodate 50. Only 50 inmates. Can you imagine that for the entire state of WA? Right? So needless to say, it was kind of overcrowded. Right, so the WA government thought, why don't we buy Fremantle prison over from the British, and then we can transform it into a local jail, and so that's what they did. So from 1886, we began accepting locals, meaning people who had committed crimes here in the state, as opposed to back in the UK. Right, so we had men, obviously, we had women as well. Right, so we did have a women's prison here. We'll be having a look at that in just a bit. We did have young boys and teenagers too. Anyone want a chance to guess? What was the age of the youngest boy that ever did time here in Fremantle prison? Any wild guesses?
5.
5. Oh, that is pretty young. Any guesses?
9.
9, okay. 10, yeah, a little bit older. All right. It was actually 8. So very close, folks. 8 years old. Can you imagine that? His name was Samuel Andrews, and he was first thrown in here in 1889. Now, what did he do? Well, he stole a bag of oranges. Right? Naughty boy. Right? And for that, he did 3 days. He did 3 days in Fremantle prison. But over the next 20 years, however, he went in and out of prison more than 20 times. Right? More than 20 times. So he was a career criminal, and he started early. Right? So we had young boys as well. We had people who couldn't pay their parking tickets. People couldn't pay their speeding fines. Maybe their business went bust. They went bankrupt. Right? They would land up in this prison as well, together with all the serial killers, the kidnappers, the drug dealers, and whatnot. Right? So imagine all of you just had your day in court, right? All 27 of you, right? And the judge says guilty. Now they send you from the courts in the city all the way down here to Fremantle. Now this is prisoner reception. This is your first stop, right? So the door swings open, you get off the van, and you have a seat on that very bench. Now the first thing you're going to get you to do is to enter this office right over here. Right, so that's where they will check your ID to make sure you've got the right person and make sure that you've got the right sentence, because you can't tell the difference between a serial killer and someone who hasn't paid their parking. Right? So you get that all sorted out and you escort them out here. Right, now can everyone see the marking here? Now what's going on here? Now you see we do have some photographs here as well. these were actually taken, sorry, these were actually taken from the final weeks of 1991 of this prison's operation, right? So that is probably a prisoner as well, that model, right? And what's going on here? Well, this is a strip search, right? So you can see the markings at the top photograph that says stand here. And that will be right over here, right? So he'll be meant to stand here, butt naked, and they will check everything, right? So they check his ears, they check his head, they check his mouth, to see if he's hiding any drugs, any sharp items, any things he should not be bringing into this prison. And last but not least, to get him to adopt this position and cough really hard. Yeah, so don't try it here. You can try it at home if you like. If there's something stuck up your bum, it will come out, right? So you're not going to be hiding anything up there either, right? So once you're all clear, very good. It's off to the shower with you. That's where you take your first and your last shower before and after your sentence. Excuse me. Now, once you're all clean, they will bring you out here and present you with your outfit of the day, right? So these are your prison greens, and prisoners here in this prison, they wore green, while the guards wore brown, very similar to the color of the wall behind you, or khaki. You do have the shorts version of this too, for the warmer months, short sleeve version right there in the window. You do have your very own pair of boots, right? And all these items are made here on site, courtesy of your fellow inmates. So they're made by prisoners for prisoners. Right? You will be receiving a little bag hanging in the window as well. That is actually your toothbrush, your toothpaste, your soap, your underwear. Did I mention you have to share your underwear?
Oh,
Here in this prison? Yeah. Right? And your prisoner information booklet as well. All the do's and don'ts, all the rules and regulations here in this place. Right? So you have to read it and you have to sign it. If you could not read, you have it read to you and you still have to sign anyway. Bag is transparent, of course, because the guards have to see what's inside at all times. Now, after receiving all these items, you will be escorted into the prison. But we do have a few other items just over here in this corner. Thank you. Now, let's see what we've got. This is a washing machine, folks. Okay? So we used to have two of these right over here. And every Saturday, two prisoners would be on duty washing out all the civilian clothing. Now, remember the strip search, right? So they all went into bags, like that one hanging in the window. That's called a calico bag. Right, so they wash them all out here, sort them out on the shelf right there, and they will store them in the laundry right there in the corner for safekeeping to the time of the prisoner's release. You don't need your civilian clothing here in this prison. One last item right over here. What might this be? Let's have a look. You've got some nice big windows. You've got a big wire mesh at the top. You've got a nice bolt on the door. Very secure. You've got a little bench in there. And you've got some books on the wall. Now this is actually reserved for VIPs. VIPs, very important prisoners. What might qualify you to be a VIP here in Fremantle Prison? Any guesses? Murder, maybe. Might be your crime. Well, there are three reasons actually. Number one could be your crime, but not quite murder. It would actually be something that the other prisoners would find disagreeable. You know, they might not agree with that. Maybe it's something off limits. Usually, crimes against women, crimes against children, being a pedophile, being a sex offender, things like that. Right? Now that would land you in deep trouble. So in you go to that box, because the other boys out here probably will be out to get you. Right? Even prisoners have got principles. Yeah. Right. So that's number one. Number two might be your previous occupation. Right? Maybe a police officer, maybe a lawyer, maybe a judge, maybe a prison officer. Oh, well, these boys here, they might be out for revenge, right? So no, not safe out here. In you go to that little box. Number three, maybe your last name ends with Kardashian or something like that. You're famous or infamous, doesn't matter. Everyone knows who you are, and everyone wants a piece of you, quite literally. So no, not safe out here. In you go to that little box. So that's how it works, right? Now you will be receiving all your items as well, your uniform, your boots, and all that, and you will be escorted into the prison. Now we're just going to go into the prison right now. As we walk along, do mind your step. A lot of uneven surfaces. Very first step of the day is right over there. If you need to go anywhere, just let me know. I've got a radio here, and I will summon security who will escort you to freedom or the toilet or wherever it is you wish to go. Okay? Just follow me this way. Thank you. Let's try this way.
Down.
Are you guys okay with the audio? Good? Yeah? Okay. Which language? Japanese, okay. So, English, okay? Okay. Okay, let us work on. so we will pause here for just a bit. This in the shade. You can take a break over there. You can stand in the shade here too. As you can see, we do prison very differently here in WA. We've got the bar and whatnot. Life in prison is apparently pretty good these days. For real, right? They've got Wi-Fi, you know, they've got internet access, they've got computers, video games. I saw a news report the other day. There was a jail over in Sydney. It was like, wow, they've got cubicles, they've got pillows, cushions. That's the life. Yeah. Okay, all right, everyone out? Awesome. Okay, yeah. Alright folks, so welcome to the main parade ground, right? So this is what we call the main parade ground. It's supposed to be empty and bare. Today, you see, we use it for events. I think we've got a concert coming up soon, so that's why it's all laid out. But back in the day, this was no man's land, right? This was a buffer zone between the main cell block right over there and the scary looking fence behind you right over there. Excuse me. Right, so you don't want to be hanging out around here. If you're caught loitering here, you're not escorted by a prison officer, you might be shot by a prison officer stationed up there in gun tower number 4, right? We do have gun tower number 1, also just right over there on top of that wall, about 100 meters away. And together with 5 other gun towers, we have a total of 7 gun towers looking after perimeter security here in this place. Not so much to keep people out, but to keep these boys in. Right, so it's empty, it's bare, because the idea is you can run, but you can't hide, right? And before you can reach the fence, you probably get shot by the prison officer up there with a .22 caliber rifle, right? Now, this is the main cell block. This was actually built by the convicts all the way back in the 1850s. It took them 7 years to do that, right? You can see the walls right there. They were actually blown down once before, and then when they put them back up, that's when they erected the support. You can see those 3 pillars. Yeah, so that's because the wall was actually blown down before, so they put that back up again in 1855. Right, so it took them 7 years to build this building. Now we do have a few other buildings though. Now can everyone see the one right there in the corner, the one with the green pipes? Right, so that is new division, and that's part of the modern era. Right, so this place was running out of space by the time the 1900s rolled around, so they felt the need to build new division over there. It took them 3 years to build that. Right, so we've got a total of 5 divisions for the men. Right, new division, and we've got division 1, 2, 3, 4 right here in the main cell block. So 5 in total. Right, what about that red building? That red building right over there behind the stage. Now that is actually the women's prison, right? And the women's prison ran from 1886 all the way to 1970. Right? Later on they moved to the Swan Valley. That's where Bandy Up prison is. Right? So next time you have some wine and cheese, have a look out. There is actually a women's prison right over there. Right, so if you came to Fremantle back in the 70s to the 80s, 1970s, 1980s, you would hear screaming, you would hear howling, you hear all kinds of strange noises coming from the prison, especially at night. Right? If you were housed on the top floor of the prison, you've got 4 floors here, you can actually look over the walls, right? You can see what's going on outside. And imagine you're on the other side of the cell block, you can look over the wall on that side into the residential houses along Hampton Road. Right, so some of the prisoners, with a bit of cash, they could pay for some entertainment. Place across the road. Yeah, not family friendly, if you know what I mean. So nobody really wanted to hang around Fremantle that much. But when this place shut down in '91, property prices went through the roof, and Fremantle is really expensive today. Yeah. So anyway, what we'll be doing for this tour, we'll be going down to the southern end over there. We'll have a look at some of the work areas. Right, we'll pass through the kitchens. We'll have a look at the exercise yards. Right, and we'll stop by the gallows. That's where they used to hang prisoners, yeah? And we'll go on to the northern end, and we'll finish off at the women's prison right over there, right? But for now, if you follow me this way,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you can get down here. Good job.
Nice and shady. We'll just gather here for a bit.
You know, Sesame prison, the one with the green pipes, was that
Oh,
also
yes.
made by the convicts? Or was that made by
Well, that was
contractors?
actually made by contractors, probably not the convicts, because that one came around in 1904. So
All
new
right.
division, yeah, was built in 1904. And by the time, most of the convicts would have been out of jail. Yeah, they would have gone into the community, started new lives, and yeah, things like that. Yeah.
Only the original one.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it was
it's
made of
convicts.
limestone as well. This is made of limestone, and so is New Division. Yeah. Right, folks. So welcome to the shade here at the southern end of the prison, and we have a good look at some of the work areas here. Right now, work is actually very important here in the prison. Right, otherwise things get really, really boring, and believe it or not, boredom is actually a big problem even here in prison. Right, so 12 work areas. One of the first ones right behind you. Those are the vegetable gardens. Those bushes you see over there. Right, so they used to grow vegetables, and they would cook them in the prison kitchen right here to your left. If they had any extra, any surplus, they could sell them in the community markets outside. And back in the day, they even had a prison cow as well, right? So that was one of the work areas. This building here, this is not a work area, but it's very important. This is the shower block, right? So this is where the prisoners would take their showers during their sentence, right?
Yeah.
So some of you might know that this place does not have flushing toilets, right? 99% of the cells here have no plumbing, no flushing toilets, no tap water, no basins, no showers, nothing of that sort, right? They use toilet buckets for 136 years, all the way to 1991. And later on, when you had up to 6 men in each cell, they all had to share one toilet bucket. Yeah, so you don't want to take a shower. You come out here 3 times a week in the summer and 2 times a week in the winter. Now you can see there's a small little sign there on the wall. It says full clothes change, Tuesdays and Fridays only. Right, so that includes your underwear. Right, so you don't get to change that every day. Right? Now some of the more daring prisoners, they would dip into the underwear basket and put on a few extra pairs, and then you can use them through the week. You don't have to wear the same thing for 2 or 3 days at a time. And hopefully you don't get caught by the guards. Right? Now behind the shower block, you have the cement products workshop. Right? So that's where they used to make cement tables and benches. Very popular in the public parks back in the 80s and 90s. That was a design back then. Right? So they had a contract with the local city council. It's a win-win situation. They get cheap labor. It's not free, but it's cheaper than what they might get out there. And the boys here, they get to learn a trade. Right? So you could even graduate from Fremantle Prison with a qualification or apprenticeship, right, if you were here for a long enough period of time. You got a safety products workshop right over there, that little hut. Safety goggles, hard hats, safety vests, things like that. All the way at the end of the road, you do have the entrance to the carpentry, the metalworking, and the automotive workshop, right? And in the early days, that used to be the blacksmithing workshop, and that's where the British Army would teach the convicts blacksmithing skills so that they could build this prison, right? But the best place to work here in this prison is probably the kitchens, right? Follow me, I'll show you why.
Này hay á, cái gì gọi là hay.
Về hồi sau nó cũng độc
The
quá.
shower block was built in the modern era, right? So not, and in fact, it was pretty late, like probably after the 1940s, right? So before the the convict era, all the way to the 1940s, the shower block was not this one. The shower block was actually behind the prison. Right now, that building is demolished today, so it's no longer there. But we do have the old aerial photographs, and they do show where it was. And today, we do have archaeologists going in there. Historians. They're digging up the foundations, and they actually see the remains of that. So that's where they used to do the laundry. Hang out the clotheslines, and that's where the shower block used to be. But later on, it moved over here. Yeah. Okay, follow me, folks. This is what you said right over here. quite a few sections, as you can see, stretches all the way over there. The first section to your left over here says no smoking in this area. Now, this used to be the prison bakery, and that's where you used to bake all the fresh bread every morning. Where's the oven? The oven used to be over there. You can see the big fiberglass panel. It used to be attached to the wall. Since been ripped out, but we do have a photograph of that in the next area. So that's the bakery. But this area here, this used to be the dishwashing area. So you can see behind you there's a huge basin, and that's where they used to wash all the dishes by hand. So 3 times a day, we've got up to 500 to 600 prisoners here. That's a lot of dishes. That's a comfortable number, by the way. But towards the end, it was more like 1,200 prisoners that were squished into Fremantle prison. So overcrowding was a big problem too. So you can imagine washing all those dishes there. They did have a power with the dishwasher that's right behind you. Now coming up to your left over here, this is actually a very special room. Now it says not enter only when officer is present. So what's so special about this room? Now if you have a look at the back wall, you can see a cabinet, and that's where they used to keep all the dangerous stuff. All the knives, choppers, and even the little stationary scissors. So only the most well-behaved boys got to work here in the prison kitchen for reasons such as that. So not just anyone. Now if I'm working here in the kitchen, I would go in there in the morning, say I would take the chopper, I would write my name on a little tag or a label, I attach that to the chopper, I write my name in the officer's book as well, and he has to be there, He has to see it, and he has to sign it off, And at the end of the day, every single piece of equipment has to be returned to that cabinet. Otherwise, the entire prison goes into lockdown, and they don't stop until they find that chopper. So very serious stuff going on here. Now, if we move along this way, we'll move to the cooking area. Okay, so this is the heart of the action. This is where it all takes place 3 times a day and 7 days a week. You do have 20 men working in here, 2 prison officers supervising them, and 1 chef calling the shots. Now that chef is a prisoner as well, and that's how it works here in this prison. You've got some skills, you've got some experience, you can actually apply for the jobs in the various departments. So back in the day, we really hot, a lot of steam, a lot of water on the floor. You would have a few tables here, and that's where they cook all the food. So those 5 massive cauldrons, that's where they cook stew, S-T-E-W. So if you like stew, you're going to love prison food because you have that 6 days a week. And every Friday you have fish and chips because Fremantle Court is next door. So that's how things work. Now, if you have a look at those cauldrons, you don't see any open flames. So it's all cooked using steam, and the steam is generated from the boiler next door. Channel through the pipes, and they steam all that. So that sounds pretty healthy, But the ingredients are not. They always try to get the cheaper stuff. So lots of vegetables, lots of meat. That wasn't uncommon. According to the records, according to the accounts, they say that the meat even had maggots crawling out of them, and it was so bad that it ended up starting a riot. The 1968 riot was all started because of bad food, and because the prison refused to take the feedback seriously. Now, anyway, after cooking the food, you put them on these big trays, you call them dixies, And you put the lid on, and you bring it right over here, right here to this wall. Now, you can see there's some labels on the wall. Food trolley, new division, food trolley, main division, and so on. So we used to have a row of trolleys right here, and after cooking the food, you bring them here, you stack them up on the trolleys, like what you see in the hospitals maybe today, And you have a few prisoners wheeling them to their respective divisions, Now, the other prisoners, they would then come downstairs, they would collect the food, go back upstairs to their cells, and they would have their meals alone, or together with their cellmates, if they had any. So the idea was to keep them separate. You don't want them eating together and just stabbing and poking each other with their knives and forks, So that was for breakfast and for dinner. Now lunch was the only meal that was had together outside. Now, everyone's together in the exercise yards, and because that's happening, no knives, no forks, only finger food, things like pies, sandwiches, burgers, So we do have a few photographs here. This is a picture of the boiler, really old one, and that one's actually in the other room, and that produces all the steam. That's the oven in the bakery back in the day. And we do have the cooking area back when it was a lot wetter, So these were all taken in the final months of '91, just before this place shut down. So it's a real challenge to keep this place clean, because if you have a look behind you, just right over here, you can see that even the kitchen is made out of limestone, right? So right up there, right? Now what's the problem with limestone? Limestone is porous, right? You get little holes in there, and you get cockroaches and pests hiding in there. So it's really quite impossible to really keep this place 100% clean, right? So even till today, on torchlight tours, just last night, right? All the cockroaches were coming out, especially in the warmer weather, right? So you're welcome to join us on Wednesdays and Fridays. Anyway.
Did you come to the when you did your
We're just heading out to the exercise drive.
Chỗ mà nó cái kia nó thấy nào còn nó cũng nói à,
Có gì?
nói cái vụ mà cái con nhỏ nó bị execute.
Okay. So here we are in a private exercise yard, right? Now this isn't for everyone, this is reserved just for the 20 men working here in the prison kitchen. Right, so you've got a bit of downtime, you've done your chores, done your cooking and all that. You come out here, well, you can hang a boxing bag, you can do some exercise, you can do some pull-ups, you can put some gym equipment here. You do have a few showers and a few flushing toilets, right? Not toilet buckets, mind you. You do have real flushing toilets here. And here working in the kitchen, you have to shower every day, right? Or should I say you get to shower every day, right? It's a benefit as well, right? And you're completely safe with that wire mesh at the top, so no one's climbing in or out. Right, so I mentioned that working in the kitchen was the best place to work. A few reasons for that. Number one, you're the highest paid prisoner in the entire place. $37 a week. Yeah, went a lot further like that. Right? You have extra food all the time. You can go for second or third helpings. It's not a problem. It's nice and warm in the kitchens, right? All the time. It's not great in weather like that, but most of the time here in Perth, it is a little bit chilly, right? And we don't have heating here in this place. So if you're working in the kitchen, that's not a problem. Right? Now, on top of all that, you've got this private exercise yard all to yourselves, right? Now, what about everyone else, right? Everyone else that wasn't so fortunate to work in the prison kitchen. Well, they will be right through this door, right over here. And that leads to the common exercise yard, right? Now, we only had enough jobs for about a third of the prison's population. And that means most of them were just spending 8.5 hours a day in one of these exercise yards, right? So what were they up to? Well, we'll find out, but we can't go through this door because there's a shelter in there. It's about to collapse, right? So they're doing something about that. We will take a short detour and we'll go to Division 2 exercise yard, right? Follow me this way.
So you don't have to feel this.
No, it's apparently what's the basically.
Don't get distracted by the display cells over there. We've got plenty more coming up. For now, we'll just head on outside to Division 2 exercise yard, and that is right this way.
Hey, question. The floor
Yes.
and the toilet in the original?
Yes, so that is the original flooring. Yes. Yeah.
In the kitchen too, right?
And the kitchen too. Yeah, very sharp. Huh? Yeah, so this is actually came on much later, and I'll tell you a little bit more later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right up this way, folks. Let's take a break in the shade and look where everyone together. Today, yes, it's just for tourists. They don't have any real prisoners yet. Yeah. Okay, everyone here. All right, awesome. All right, now, folks, welcome to Division 2 exercise yard. Right now, every division here in this prison has its own exercise yard. Divisions 1, Division 2, Division 3, 4, and new division all the way to the northern end, and of course the women's prison. They have their own yards as well, right? So this is where about 200 men will be spending their days, right? 8.5 hours. If you didn't have a job in one of the workshops, right? So for 8.5 hours, what kind of stuff do they do? They could actually play some basketball, right? They could actually play some tennis, and they used to play tennis and basketball at the same time, right? Some of them were not too happy with that, and they threw their rackets up there. Can everyone see a racket that's poking out at the edge of the roof? It's right up there by the skinny little downpipe. There is a tennis racket. Yeah. So that tennis racket has been there for at least 34 years. Right? So for 200 men in here, how many prison officers do you think they put in charge to manage 200 men? Any guesses? One. Yes, exactly. It was one. Just one prison officer looking after 200 men. Now, if you were that very lucky prison officer, where would you stand? Have a look around. Where would you stand? Over there? That's a good idea. Where else? Where else might you stand? Someone on the other tour said, I'll stand right there in the middle. Come on, 1 against 200, bring it. Or maybe up there in the gun tower, right? Those are all great options. I was actually over there. Yes, you are correct. Right there in that little cage in a prison of his own. Right, so he will be in there for 2 hours at a time. Right, and every 2 hours, a fellow colleague, a fellow prison officer would come by and swap places with him. Right, now what kind of weapons, what kind of equipment would they arm him with to manage 200 of WA's finest? Right, any guesses? Baton? Nothing? Someone said nothing? Right? Someone said a sword on the other tour. Wow, okay. Well, it was actually a whistle. A tiny little whistle. Right? So you can't risk any of them grabbing your stick or your baton. Right? So not even a baton, right? Just a tiny little whistle. If you saw something going on, maybe there was a fight breaking out, you blow your whistle. Beep, 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 hey, boys, come on, stop fighting, get on each other. Beep, 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 beep. And that's all you do. Right? Like an umpire, like a referee. You don't want to come up here and endanger yourself. You stay behind those bars in that little cage. Right? For things that are really serious, get on your radio. They call it SHU, Special Handling Unit. And then watch the riot here, the helmets and the shields and the batons. And they'll come down here and break up the fight. Right? Now, we have a quick look down the back of the yard. You can follow me this way. Just watch your step. There is a little grate right over here. Take a break in the shade right here. All right, so here we are at the back of the yard, and we do have quite a few important things. Now, the first order of business every single morning is to empty your toilet bucket. Right, and you do that right over here. Right, so this used to be an open sewer, right, and it's been sealed off now, so you can't actually see what's in there. Right, but every morning there will be two very lovely gentlemen washing out all the toilet buckets, so you don't have to do it yourself. Right, one standing over here and one standing over there. Right, so between the two of them, they have to wash out 200 toilet buckets every single morning. How much were they paid? $11 a week, and that was officially the lowest paying job here in Fremantle Prison. All right, now after washing out all those toilet buckets, you bring them right here. Now you can see there's some markings on the floor, right? A and B, C and D. So these are the landings, right? Landing A and landing B, that's on the ground floor. Right, C and D, that's on the first floor, second floor, and you've got the top floor with G and H right over here. Now the other prisoners will then come here, collect their buckets at the end of the afternoon and bring them back to their cells, right? Now what else we got here? We got a urinal, and that's what that wall over there is, right? It's a urinal. You do have some taps and basins because you don't have taps in your cells. So you want to brush your teeth, you want to wash your face, you want to do your morning routine, you got to do that out here. And you do have 4 flushing toilets as well, right? So only 4 for 200 men. So take a number. number if you've got to do a big one. Right, now you can see we've got the shelter right over here. It looks relatively new, right? It looks in much better condition than that one over there. That is the original one, right? Now this one here has just been repainted like maybe a year or two ago, right? So they put this in 1968. So before 1968, all the prisoners were out here, like that, in the sun. In the wind, in the rain, summer, winter, and everything else in between. Right? It wasn't until the 1968 riot that the prison realized, oh yeah, it's probably a good idea to give them some shade. But we should do that. Yeah, so they put in the shelter only in 1968. And they put in the TV as well, so you climb up the ladder, you change the channel, channel 7, channel 9, ABC. That's it, right? No Netflix. All right, you could do some exercise, you got a fitness station behind you over there. You could read some newspapers, you can read some books, and that's it. Right, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. So you can tell, right, boredom was a big problem here. Right, now if you follow me this way, right, we have a look at some artwork on the wall. Okay, so here we are. We do have some paintings here on the wall. The original painting is actually right over here. Right, so this was actually painted in the final months of '91, but it's all faded now because it's out in the sun every day. Right, but we managed to snap a photo back when it was first painted in '91, and this is how it used to look like. Right, so this is painted by a team of Aboriginal painters. Right, the indigenous style is called the Carolina style. Very dramatic sunrises and sunsets. Right, very nice. There's nothing man-made. There are no buildings. There are no roads, no doors. And the other is nature. Right, the idea of freedom, and that is a very popular common theme in prison art all around the world. Right, so in the final months of this prison's history, they finally gave the prisoners permission to paint on the walls out here in the yards as well as in their cells. Before that, you could not paint the walls, you could not deface the walls, if not you might be punished. Right? So some of the men actually learned how to paint here in prison. We did have an arts program which ran from the 1960s, so it gave the men another option, something else to do rather than wasting 8.5 hours out here in the yards. Right, now we'll take a quick look into Division 2. You follow me this way. Right, just mind the step. There's a drain right over there.
Ông cai tù đứng trong này.
Ai?
Ông cai tù đứng trong này.
Đấy, thấy.
Có 200 thằng tù.
Nhìn lại. Vô tù rồi đó.
Stay hydrated, right? We've got a water fountain right over here. Help yourselves if you like. All right, come on in, folks. We do have a water fountain right there to your left. Right, feel free to help yourselves. On our convict prison tour, we do go up all the way to the top floor, and in the summer, on a 40-degree day, maybe 42 degrees, we do have visitors fainting on tour. Right, so it gets really hot up there because ventilation is not great here in the main cell block. Right, so yeah, gotta stay hydrated. Okay, if you're done with that, just follow me this way. Right, we'll move towards the center. Now, if it feels like you stepped into a BBC crime drama, something you see in Netflix, right? Well, you're not too far off, because this prison is based off the design of Vanderbilt Prison in the UK. Right, so all the old prisons around the world in the former British Empire, in the Commonwealth countries, they all look pretty similar, right? There's rows and rows of cells, and you would see a staircase at one end. Right? If we randomly plopped you into one of them, you wouldn't know exactly which one you were in, because they all are based off the same design. Right, so this is how the prison used to look like in 1991, just before it shut down. Right, we've got the concrete floor now. Now, some of you noticed that we walked over flagstone. There's a different kind of flooring over there in Division 1. That was the original flooring, right? But we've got the concrete floor here, and that's a lot easier to clean and to wash. Right, now we've got these lines on the floor, and that's called a roll call, right? So we've got 3 roll calls every day, at morning, noon, and afternoon. The prisoners will be made to stand here like that, and then they would have to count them to make sure everyone is present and accounted for. No one's missing, presumed escape, right? Now what is this? What is this right above our heads? This is a suicide net, right? And the original one was put in 1923. This one's not 100 years old though. This one dates back to the 1960s, and it looks like a wire fence that ran around my primary school. Right, so it's not quite as bouncy as it looks. Right, so if you fell from the 4th or the 3rd floor, you might break something, but you'll survive. That's the idea. Right, so the idea is to keep the prisoners safe. You don't want them, attempting suicide and things like that. But one more thing that they could throw down, apart from bodies, is one of those. Can everyone see the bucket right over there? That is a toilet bucket. Right, that's one of the older models. Later on, they swapped it out to a white plastic one. But still the same thing, just a bucket. Right, so imagine you were up there as a prisoner with your toilet bucket, and you saw your most hated prisoner, just walking down here minding his own business. What might you be tempted to do? Right? So that net, it catches the bucket, but it doesn't catch what's inside the bucket. Right? So many prisoners, or prison officers, should I say, they very quickly learn their lesson. You walk under the landings, walk on this side and on that side. Stay out of the kill zone. Right? You don't want to go home with a brown shower. Right, now, right over here, we do have a few other items. Just behind you, right over here, right, you got a green box. It says spend slips. Now, this is for spending money, right? So we do have a prison canteen here, and you could buy chocolates, you could buy lollies, you could buy cigarettes, you can buy a TV, just a small one, about smaller than your iPad, in fact, right? That actually costs about $250 back in the day. You can buy that all right here, put your order in by Wednesday, and it comes 1 week later. C63s, that is for sending money. If you make some money, maybe emptying toilet buckets, something like that, you could send that out to your family. You do have the blue forms as well, and that is actually for your special requests. If you want to see a lawyer, you want to see your attorney, you want to appeal your sentence, maybe you could use the blue forms. And you have the mailbox, right? So prisoners were given 3 letters to write for free every week, right? You don't have to pay for that. If you want to write more than 3 letters, now you're going to pay for that. And same thing goes for telephone calls. You have to pay for them, you have to book them, you have to queue up, and every time you're on the phone, you have a friendly prison officer listening to every word. Right? So no privacy. Same thing goes for all your mail, all your incoming and outgoing mail. They're all read by the prison officers. So nothing sensitive gets in or out. You're not going to be planning an escape that way. Right? So as we move along this way, you realize we're in a mini town of sorts. Right? You've got food, you've got accommodation, you've got work areas, you've got amenities, all sorts of stuff going on. You've got a little timetable here to your left, and that is to give you an idea. And the TLDR version of that is basically you've got 3 roll calls. If you've got a job, you go to work in one of the workshops. If you don't have a job, you go to the exercise yards, right? And on the weekends and public holidays, everyone is squished into the exercise yards because they don't have the workshops. They close on the weekends, right? So unless you're in the kitchens or emptying toilet buckets, you don't have to work on the weekends, and you just go to the exercise yards with everyone else. Right, so you even have a barber shop coming up here, right, so you can get your hair cut right here by a prisoner, right, so you've got to really trust this guy. You're giving him a sharp pair of scissors and a razor, right, and not just the prisoners got their hair cut here, even the guards as well, right. Why not? It's cheaper than what you get up there. Right, now we're just going to turn the corner into the gallows. Right? Now the gallows was an actual place of death and execution. People actually died in there, right? So might not be for everyone, right? So if you're not planning to go into the gallows, that's okay. We do have some display cells there in Division 3. You'll be in and out of the gallows in 5 minutes, right? So does anyone want to sit out of the gallows before we proceed? Anyone want to sit out? Everyone okay with the gallows? Okay, right, follow me this way.
Cái này là cái cọ này là giết người á, sẽ bị chết đó.
Okay, now we'll have half of us in here. All 13, Right, so after you, that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Hát à,
Mẹ chào.
với mẹ chụp nha.
Sao được?
All right, folks. So you can come closer if you like. Right now, welcome to the gallows. Right now, 44 prisoners were actually hanged right here in this spot. Right, 43 men and only 1 woman. All of them were hanged on the charge of murder. Right, so not for kidnapping, not for bank robbery, not for drug trafficking like in some countries today. No, just murder. Right. So run us through a typical execution day, just to give us an idea of how things went down. Right. So executions were on Monday mornings at 8 o'clock. Right. At 5 o'clock, prisoner will be woken up in his cell on death row. Where is death row? Death row is a new division, right, all the way at the northern end. So if you're woken up, given a shower and a new set of clothes. Right now, with that, he'll be escorted all the way to cell number 1 in solitary confinement. Right now, that's just behind us. It's a 30-second walk, very close by. And in that tiny little cell, he will spend the final few hours of his life. Right now, you get a last meal, maybe a glass of whiskey, a glass of brandy, something to calm and steady his nerves. You know, some alcohol. If he's a religious sort, a prison chaplain might come by for a chat. And if he was friendly with any of the prison officers before, they might come by and talk to him one last time. Right? Now, at 2 minutes to his time of execution, 7:58 a.m., 4 prison guards would go straight to his cell, and they would escort the man straight to that door that we just came through. Right? Now, just before dragging him up the stairs, they would blindfold him, maybe put a bag over his head, because you don't want him to panic the moment he sees the noose. Right? So back in the day, this railing wasn't here. Neither was that cage, right? So there was no cage, and it's a clean drop, 13 feet, all the way down to the bottom of that pit, right? So the 4 guards would escort the prisoner right to the middle of this platform. Now this is a trapdoor, and this is how the hangman does his job, right? You push the lever that way, the doors will close, and you pull it this way, it opens, right? That's how he does his job. It's stuck today, so you can't actually move it, but you get the idea. Right, so prisoner will be escorted right here to the middle, and the 4 prison guards, right, they will stand at the 4 corners of the gallows, 1, 2, where the fans are, the 3rd one over there, and the 4th one over here. 1 hand on the railing, 1 hand on the prisoner. Keep him steady, yeah? Don't let him struggle too much. Now, if he wasn't struggling, if he was instead, really scared, really nervous, he was collapsing to his knees, that's what the chair over here is for. You place the chair under the noose. You make him sit on the chair, and you place the noose around his neck all the same. So the chair goes down together with the prisoner. Now, because that's happening, you have to attach a rope to the chair, right, so that you could pull it back up after each execution. You don't want it smashing to pieces every time. Right, it took them a few smashed chairs to figure that out. Right, now, a little bit about the noose. Now, this noose is not the original. Right, so all the originals are actually burned after each execution. It's not bad luck, nothing like that. It's because it's tailor-made according to the height and according to the weight of each prisoner. Right, so it's a different noose for every single one of us here, technically. Right, so this is how it works. That knot, it goes under your chin, like that. Right, now that rope, it leads in front of the prisoner's face. So you're hanging like this, if you can imagine. When the hangman pulls the lever, prisoner falls through the hole. The force with which you fall through the hole is going to jerk your head backwards and snap your neck, right? And that's how it works. That's good because the prisoner is unconscious. The prisoner goes to sleep, is out cold, and he doesn't feel any pain. Right, so that's the main point, right? So it's thought to be a more humane form of execution. As compared to what? As compared to the old days, you know, in the cowboy movies, the one with 13 loops, you see those, you know, on the platforms and whatnot. That one kills the prisoner by pure strangulation. So that one's a really terrible way to go. Yeah, this one puts you to sleep first, right? And then you're left to hang for 8 to 10 minutes. They still kill you by strangulation, but you're not really awake to feel the pain. Right, so because of how it works, the length of this rope is very important. It can't be too short and it can't be too long. Right? If it's too short, nothing happens. Right? And that actually happened in the year 1892. This is the original beam, by the way, and you can see the notches. You can see the notches at the top of the beam from all the ropes that have gone over the years. Right? You can see the notches on the top right here as well. Yeah, there were 2 prisoners that were hanging here in 1892. And the ropes were too short. So what happened? They set the record, 14 minutes. 14 minutes, kicking and screaming, struggling, all the way till they passed out, right? So that's not the way to do it, right? So on the other hand, what happens if the rope is too long? I imagine this would be a little too long for me, right? Well, what happens is your head comes off. Your head comes off, right? Because you fall through the hole with such great force, it kind of yanks the head off the prisoner like a chicken. That actually happened in the year 1914. A man by the name of Charles Odgers, right? So Odgers, he committed triple murder. He killed 3 people, crime of passion, which his wife actually cheated on him or something like that. He killed his 2 kids, he killed his wife, he wanted to kill himself as well, put a rifle in his mouth, bang! He blew half his head off, but he was still alive. Yeah, he was still alive. Yeah, so it's a bloody mess, right? And so he was arrested out in the bush, and he was brought back here to hang. Now the hangman tried his best, right? Take his height, take his weight, take all the usual measurements, but he did not take into account his face, half of which was missing, right? And so the rope ended up being too long, so the hangman pulled the lever, Odgers fell through the hole, his head snapped right off, bounced off the top of the ceiling, straight into the arms of a waiting prison official. And one of the prison officers, he fainted as well. Right, so no, you don't want that to happen. You just want a nice, clean execution, and then you lower the body down to the bottom. Right. So after the execution, prison doctor goes down the stairs right there in the corner, and he certifies the prisoner dead. Right, death by judicial hanging. Right, all the bodies are then buried 10 minutes away in Fremantle Cemetery in common unmarked graves. No tombstones, no headstones, nothing fancy like that. Last man to be hanged here was Eric Edgar Cook. Now, he was a serial killer. He killed 8 people here in WA and attempted the murder of 14 others as well. So that's 22 people that he tried to kill. Probably the most notorious serial killer in WA, right? And he was hanged right here in October 1964. The last hanging in the country was over in Victoria, though, in 1967, and in 1984 they took the death penalty off the books. So they don't hang anyone for murder these days. It's a life sentence. Right, so take a moment, contemplate, snap a photo if you like. No selfies, please. Right? And when we're done, we'll head out that way. We'll turn left and we'll go back to Division 3. Yes, in Australia there's no more death penalty. It's a life sentence. Here in Western Australia, the minimum non-parole period is 10 years. So you've got to be in prison for at least 10 years and then they'll hear your case for parole. Yeah, but in the other states, it might be 15 years, might be more. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Chú chụp đó.
Okay, folks, welcome to Division 3. I see you found our display cells. Now, they're all part of the cell project, a series of cells that aim to represent the different time periods along with British history from the 1850s all the way to 1901. Right, so spend a few moments as you work. Just have a look at the cells, snap a few photos if you like. If you see any artwork, especially on that side, please turn off the flash. It kind of damages the artwork. Otherwise, I'll be here if you have any questions. And I'll be collecting your paper cups as well.
And it's more comfortable than the bed.
Sorry. Cái này nè, ghế ngồi một mặt này. Cái bàn cũng được cái chứ, cái đó làm gì vậy ta? Cái bô nó đánh răng à?
Đây. Sát vô.
Oh yes, so that one, so that's B51. Let's have a look. B50. Yeah, so this one is a special sort, and it's actually designed to hold prisoners from danger or self-harm. Right, so they might be attempting suicide or something like that. So they put them in there. That's a special blanket. So if they try to tie a knot with that and try to hang themselves, that knot will come loose. So it's a special material. Yeah, so they can't actually hang themselves with that. You have an extra big window here. So that's for the prison officer. So there'll be a prison officer standing out here 24/7, making sure that he's okay. All right, and you do have a button on the wall. If he feels triggered, if he gets anxious, he presses that button, light turns on. They call the prison doctor down here right away to attend to him. Yeah, so it's a special cell, this one.
Yeah, because there's no furniture. No
Yeah. So you don't want him, doing anything.
Question
Yes, yes.
Same with the bowl.
Yes. Okay. So that is just a basin. It doesn't really lead anywhere. There is no plumbing. Right. So back in the old days, how they used to wash themselves down. And so today we have showers and all that, right?
The faucet?
Yeah. So this is how it works. So back in the day, you would have a toilet bucket and you have a water bucket. So you bring your water bucket back here. You pour the clean water into that basin, and then you just rinse your face and use the same water to wash down your entire body. And by the end of it, the water is really black. So that's how they used to do it in the old days. Yeah.
That's a toilet bucket, right?
That is a toilet bucket, yes.
Okay.
And it might be a water bucket. Yeah. So
Okay.
either or. You better know which is which, otherwise things get nasty. Yeah. So the hammocks, they were all taken from the convict ships when the convicts first came here in the 1850s. Yeah, so most of the items here, they're either taken from the ships or they're sourced from the local materials, like the table, the stool. They're all made of the jarrah from the trees in Kings Park. Right? So they went up to Kings Park, they chopped down all the jarrah trees, they floated the logs down the Swan River, brought it out here to build their own prison. The only things that were brought from the UK are the doors, because the doors are very high tech. Back in 1800s, right?
Yeah,
that's a very complicated lock.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you can't just make it down the street. Yeah, you had to make it back in the UK in the factories. Yeah, and they bring that down here. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The church over there. Yeah.
The ceiling looks like the bottom of a boat.
It looks like a what?
The bottom of the ship.
Bottom of a ship. You mean when you go in there, you can see the arches? Oh, it does, doesn't it? Right? But it wasn't actually taken from the ships. The wood was actually taken from the local trees. And what they did was they actually used steam to achieve the bending effect. And you can see there's about 10 layers, like a layer cake. And they just nailed them together, and they used steam to bend it all, and then they hoisted it up. Yeah, so that's what's happening here. Yeah.
Pháp đứng đây giùm cho.
Yes.
Đứng vô trong á.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very similar.
I see.
Yeah.
We often get compared to Alcatraz. Yeah, we tell them that from what I heard, I've never been there before, but apparently Fremantle prison is about 4 times the size of
Yeah,
Alcatraz.
yeah.
But that one's a lot deadlier, I suppose. Yeah, it's a shark infested waters and whatnot. Okay.
Did you have some
Yeah.
really infamous prisoners here?
Infamous prisoners.
You know, like in Oxford,
Yes.
the room was Alcatraz.
Yeah. Well, we did have some local celebrities, like local infamous criminals, like David Burney, Catherine Burney, the serial killers, Eric Cook, right? So we cover all that in a true crime tour. But they're mostly local. Yeah. So if you came from maybe the other states, you might not have heard of them. Probably Brandon Abbott, but he wasn't hanged though, because he was known as the postcard bandit. So he went around robbing banks all around the country. Yeah, but he wasn't hanged because he was not murdered. It was bank robbery. Yeah.
At 1980
Yes.
something, no electricity. How can they put a bell?
The bell.
Yeah.
So
The
that
ring,
bell.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually for prisoners like in danger of self-harm. Maybe they were contemplating suicide. If they got really
Yeah.
nervous, they could press the button in there, and then the light would come on. Prison doctor would
But
come
at
down.
that time, no electricity.
Yeah.
At that time.
Oh, this was in the modern era. Yeah. So they had
Oh,
electricity.
not recently.
Yeah, this is in the modern era.
Okay.
Okay, folks, so while we're here right in the middle of Division 3, we do have a good look at the roof, right? So you can see that there's a darker shade of brown going on right over there towards Division 2. That is the original Jarrah. That's about 170 years old. And you can see parts of it have been replaced with a lighter shade of brown, right? And slowly as we come over here, all the way to Division 4, the entire roof has been replaced, right? Because we had a huge fire here in 1988. Was part of the largest prison riot that this place ever saw. More than 600 prisoners took part, and even 5 prison officers were even taken hostage. Right. So if you move along this way, we do have a photograph right here on the wall. So that is how the prison looked like one day after the prison riot. Right? So the riot was on the 4th of January. That was taken on the 5th. And you can see the whole place is just burnt out. You know, the prisoners just wanted to wreck the whole place, destroy everything, because they were just so unhappy with conditions in this prison. Overcrowding, you had bad food, poor sanitation, toilet buckets, everyone sharing the same toilet bucket, right? And the list goes on, right? So it wasn't to escape, but it was just to burn this whole place down. So the entire roof of Division 4 is gone, and that's why you can see the sky right there in that photograph. Now, after 19 hours, it was a 40-degree day, they finally got them to stand down, to surrender, by offering them something very valuable. They offered them Hungry Jack's burgers. Yes, Hungry Jack's burgers, right? Because the food here was so bad that they would do anything for a Whopper. Right? So everyone gets a Whopper. Okay, we'll surrender, we'll stand down. Right? So don't underestimate fast food. Right? Follow me this way. Now we're just passing through Division 4, and we're heading to the movie theater right over here.
How?
There's a video that's playing, right? So you don't want to miss it.
Yeah. How many story? How many?
There's four floors.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
4 floors in here.
Okay.
All right. Yep. Okay, come on in.
Oh.
More water over here, folks. If you need some water, right? Stay hydrated. Yeah. All right, come on in, folks. We've got a show. We've got a little video playing. Alright, so these are not actors, right? These are actual prisoners. And this footage was taken in 1991. Alright, so they're here for an aerobics class, right here in this space. Now this is called the Crown Theatre. That instructor on stage leading the group, he's a prisoner as well because he's in green. Alright, so in his past life, might have been a coach, PT, or something like that. Alright, so these boys are well behaved. They get to come here on the weekends. Alright, so this is probably a Saturday or Sunday, and they get to come here for some rest and recreation. Alright, so you can do some aerobics, you can throw some darts, there's a dart board at the back. right? You could play some hockey with the wall. There's a TV, right? We saw that in the previous shot. There's a piano that's still there till today, right? And they used to have performances on that stage too, right? So you get external performers to come in, charity gigs mostly, right? So they will perform on that stage. And in the early years, like in the early
Mới 1991
late 1800s, they have performances by prisoners, for prisoners, right there on that stage. I could play some pool as well. Right? Now, of course, you can watch a movie with that really big screen over there. The men would sit down here, and the ladies from the women's prison, they would sit up there. Right? So you've got some gallery seats there, and that is this is one of the few areas, a few places in the prison where the men and women could actually interact. Yeah. So some of them will not be watching the show; they'll be exchanging love letters. Some of these men are actually interviewed. Right? Their stories, their opinions, their comments, what they felt about the prison, what they felt about the riot. This gentleman here, he's interviewed as well, right? And you can find their videos, the interviews that are playing on the video at the front of the prison, right? So after the tour, feel free to go on and check it out, one of the free galleries. Okay, folks, so we're just going to head out this other door, and we'll head off to the women's prison.
Oh.
How often do they have concerts?
So only in the summer. So mostly in the December to the March months of the year. And during this period, maybe once a month or so. Yeah. So apart from concerts, we do have corporate events like maybe dinners. We do have weddings here as well, right? You can get married in the Anglican chapel if you want to start a life sentence, right? This is the best place to do it. Yeah. So all kinds of events. We'll go to the women's prison.
How many prison like this in Australia?
How old is this prison?
No, how many prisons?
How many prisons like this? So we have 11. 11 convict sites that are
In Australia?
In Australia, and they all they're all looked after by UNESCO. Yeah, the UN. Yeah, so they look after all these old historical sites. Yeah. All right, come on in, folks. Come on in. Just watch your step at the door. Yep.
So all them UNESCO?
Yes, all the 11 sites here in Australia,
UNESCO.
they're looked after by UNESCO.
What year?
Yeah. So here, for Fremantle Prison, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2010. 2010.
Oh,
yeah.
recently.
So 50 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, folks, come on in, come on in. All right, now welcome to the women's prison. We have about 52 cells in here. Half of them are leased out to the YHA, the Youth Hostel Association, and that's behind the boarding over there, so that part belongs to them. If you want to stay a night in prison for real, you can. Just hop on the door, we'll be more than happy to take you in. Right? A regular women's cell actually looks like this one, right here to my left. Right? So it's a single cell, right? So all the ladies have single cells. They never have to share the cells with other inmates. Right? And that's where the good stuff ends. Everything else was pretty bad. Right? They all had to use one toilet and bathroom. It's a 2-in-1 right here. And they could only shower once a week. Only once a week. 3 ladies had to share 1 bathload of water. Right? And the water was usually cold. Right? Because all the hot water comes from the kitchen. You can see how far we walked from the kitchen. So food was always cold, water was always cold. Wasn't great. 1967, the major here in charge said, that's enough. I will do my own kitchen right here. And she did that. And this was shut down 3 years later. So, it's probably for the best because they moved to a brand new one. In 1970, they moved to Maldives prison. Right, now what did the ladies do during the day? Well, they did laundry for more than 600 men, and they were not paid for that, so it wasn't great. But let's have a look at some of the records here, right? So we do have a Hall of Fame, right? You notice all these glass panels on the walls. These are all the records of the repeat offenders. They all belong to one person. These records, right? So they all belong to one person, by the way. Let's have a look. Larceny. Larceny means things like stealing, burglary, right? Stuff like that. 12 months. Just given 12 months for that. Vagrancy, just sleeping rough, just sleeping on the streets, right? There was a real drive to clear the homeless off the streets. This was 1905, right? Early 1900s. So 2 months for that. Being of evil fame. Being of evil fame? Anyone? Well, that just means you got a bad reputation, right? You haven't done anything wrong, but just in case, they're going to put you in here, in case you do something wrong, right? So 4 months for being of evil fame, folks.
Was that over winter?
Pardon?
Was that over winter?
That was in May, yeah, so, yeah, thereabouts.
Sometimes there's a reason.
Yeah.
They did that.
Yeah, so stealing, let's see, drunk again, disorderly, obscene language, earned her 7 days for cussing and swearing, habitual drunkard, idle and disorderly, for being idle and disorderly, 2 months for that, right, so, very little bit comical, you know, it's a very different social norms back then, very different laws, relatively minor stuff compared to today, compared to the men especially, right? But when this place shut down in 1970, it was all transformed into an arts school for the men's arts program, right? So feel free, have a look inside some of the cells. They've been combined they've been enlarged to form the classrooms for the men's arts program, and that's where you get the paintings on the wall. They're all painted by the men. Right? So 2 doors down, that one's open as well. This one's open, and have a look at some of the records too. Right, and when we're done, then we'll just gather outside on the road. Yes, solicitor prosecution.
Xoe cũng được, cớp cũng được.
Ok, ok.
Hồi đó mà chửi thề cũng không được đâu nha. Chửi thề bị 7 ngày tù á. Đó khó hả?
Just remove it. Just locked up for being disorderly.
Crime.
Loitering for prostitution, right? Stealing, yeah, and drunk.
Brad này. Cái này họ phim của mình. Em đang nghĩ là họ phim của mình.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and a gentleman came up. He looked like he was in his 50s or 60s. Right, very casual with t-shirt, shorts, slippers, little backpack. Right, he didn't look like he was here on a tour. Right, he wasn't like a regular tourist. So he just started talking to us. And he says, I was one of the last few prisoners to be transferred out of Fremantle prison down to Casuarina prison in 1991. October 91. So, oh, okay, wow. Okay, so you're coming back here for a look? Yes. Right, I said, so when did you get out of Casuarina? 10 weeks ago. 10 weeks ago. This is 2022. So you do the math. 30 years. 30 years down at Casuarina prison. Right, so, conversation went on, and I had to ask, right, so what did you do? Any guesses? Murder, yes, murder. He was quite open about it. I killed someone when I was 21. Yeah. What do you say to that? Like, oh, cool. I'm like, okay. Right, so right, so he was showing us his phone though. He was swiping through the photos, and because when he left the prison in 2022, the guards actually gave him a lot of photos from over the years, right? And you can see the hairstyles are changing. His hair is getting whiter. They used to have bell bottoms, for the prison uniforms as well. That changed as well, right? And he was showing us a lot of wooden furniture, that was in the photos, and we said, oh, what's that? What's all the wooden furniture about? He said, I made all that. He made all that, and he did a carpentry apprenticeship while he was down in Casuarina. Right, so he says, now that I'm out, I'm going to start a furniture business. Why not? Right, second chance. Okay, follow me this way.
put something good out of it.
Back here, before the thing, about 10 weeks ago. Just before he committed murder, and he showed him all the pictures on him exactly what stuff was
Prison. Right now, there's still other parts of the prison that we haven't explored. If you're interested in any of those, all you have to do is show your yellow ticket to the ticket office, and you can get your next tour at just $10. Right, so it's more than 50% off. Right now, if you're interested in any of the other free galleries, feel free to pop by, have a look. And all of you have been very well behaved, so I'm going to set you free for now. Prison, thank you so much for coming on my tour, and I hope to see you again sometime.
Thank you.
Very much.
Mình hỏi là có nghe được người ta những tiếng hét lạ trong chỗ này nữa.
It might take a while to get to that bit.
These are our officer, I guess. That's one of them. These are our officer.
Entering the prison, I just realised how big it was, but and obviously how old it was. But the thing that was stayed in my mind the most was the description. Look at the cells. You know, they put me in a cell, the first cell I was in, and I laid down in the bed and I looked to my left, somebody, whoever had been in the cell, had been picking your nose and wiping the bullies on me. And there was that many of them. I could literally guarantee you there was hundreds of them. Right where my head is. And I never even, I think I was in the cell for 2 or 3 days, I didn't even clean them up, you know. And I thought the cells are quite disgusting. But they weren't in the best condition. Whoever lived in the cell prior to me, the cells weren't cleaned up after that person left. You know, he'd obviously been in there for a long time because he had hundreds of bullies that he decided to wipe on the wall. But it was the only description. It was very disgusting.
Ô này hay nè. Mình sẽ đứng chụp chưa?
It spends its days slowly swimming around through the water at depth between 200 and 1,000 metres. And although it looks scary, it only feeds on plankton and other tiny little crustaceans. And it's got to eat a lot because it's big and hungry. The plankton and other creatures move to the surface of the ocean during the evening because it's then safe for them to come. And that's when megamouth goes and follows up and they swarm together to help megamouth catch the plankton.
Was the tiny Banda Islands in eastern Indonesia, because it was so rare and expensive. Traders tried to keep the rules a secret. So we used to tell people the nutmeg were eggs of fish Satan. Oh, yes. You could trade these spices for clothes, carpets, and horses in the Middle East, or gold, ivory, and slaves from Africa. With the gold, you could buy pepper in India to trade with the Chinese for silk and porcelain. Along with goods, ideas, and even whole religions like Islam traveled on ships.
No worries, mate. It's just another Indian Ocean port. It's all connected by the sea. Us traditional owners of Australia were traders too, and not just among ourselves. Before the European invasion, Indonesia...
Ship leaving the port of Fremantle, the city of the port city of the Western Australia state, near capital of Perth, capital of Western Australia state, one of 6 states of Australia. Right here is the Maritime Museum. And we get to walk from there to the ship. Take about 15 minutes to the ship here. Next to that is the beach.
Vậy chụp tấm này nè. Để có cái cạn này nè ba này, nó xuống nữa rồi đó, nó câu nó xuống nhanh lắm.
Bye bye Australia. Bye bye Australia. 9 country, 9 people.
This is our last port of Australia. The last port is Perth, and the name of the port of call is
The city, box city of Australia, Western Australia state, one of 6 states of Australia. The capital of this state is Perth.
We are leaving Australia and
Go to Africa.
7 days, 7 sea days, and then we're gonna end up in another paradise, Maldives, Malaysia, in the Indian Ocean. Beautiful sunset.
Marine Museum. Maritime Museum.
Moi je vais monter là.
Bên trái, sát bên.
Ôi, này sao nó cho xe chạy ra thuốc ngoài này?
Cho chứ. Nãy tính ra đây nè, mà không đủ giờ. Hay quá.
Bà này bây giờ tay chụp chẳng được, mấy quay tay nãy giờ.
So beautiful. Oh, yeah. Thêm nữa nè.
Bây giờ thuyền về, chiều rồi thuyền về rồi. Sunset đẹp hả? Về chiều về. Giữ cho nó lưỡng đúng không? Về cho lưỡng. Đi vô ăn.
Bye bye Australia.